Hi guys, welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I actually wanted to have a one-on-one talk with you guys on how to achieve a flawless finish look. I actually did some research and I realized that most of the tutorials or anything that is out there don't really give step-by-step on what to look for when it comes to getting that really flawless finish face. So today I am going to go over on some steps and also give you guys some tips on how to achieve or on how to make your foundation last longer throughout the day. So if you're interested in knowing that or learning a little bit of tips, just keep on watching. Alright, so here we are. As you can tell, I did pull my hair to the back and I am wearing this headband just so I can keep my hair away from my face. And I do want to say I 100% recommend each step that I am going to go over, because over the years that I have done makeup, I definitely have seen a difference when it comes to how my face lasts throughout the day. And I also have been getting a lot of questions every time, especially at work. They tell me, oh my god, your face looks amazing, it looks so flawless. And obviously that has to do a lot with makeup, because as you can tell, this face is not as flawless as it looks. So let's go ahead and start. I want to say with the pre-step. The pre-step for me, it's obviously going to be moisturizing. So moisturizing has a lot to do when it comes to you getting that really flawless face throughout the day, or just overall that really flawless finish skin. So I definitely say that even if you're a beginner and you're starting to do makeup, if you're young and you're starting to explore makeup, explore foundations and anything like that, you definitely want to look into really taking care of your skin before. And I know that back in the day, I really didn't care. When I was younger, I was just like, you know what, I don't really need to take care of my skin. I'm young, my skin looks good. I never really wear any moisturizer, just my makeup. And sometimes I used to sleep with my makeup on, which is horrible. That's the bad thing. That's like the worst thing you can do. So definitely recommend you as a pre-step to do a really good moisturizer. So for me, step number one definitely is going to be primer. So your primer is your main focus thing. That's like your base to start everything else. For me, on my previous video, as you guys know, I did show that this has been the primer I've been loving so far. I do have other primers. For dry skin, I definitely recommend this one from Pure Cosmetics. It's called 4-in-1 Correcting Primer. Super moisturizing, super energizing, and your skin is going to feel so nice and hydrated. If you're more in the oily side, and which I am as well, but I tend to always change things around, and as of right now, my skin feels really good. I feel like the oils are there, but they're not really showing as much. I definitely recommend you this one for oily skin. It's called Pore and Shine Control Primer. Really good, especially if you're really oily. It's gonna help lock oils and not come through throughout the day. So, same as my previous video, I always just kind of rub it around my T-zone, really in those areas. I never do my whole face because obviously I already use moisturizer, and that's what I only want to focus on. Okay, so once we do our primer, I tend to let it sit there for a little bit. I usually start doing my brows as my next step, but for the sake of this video, I'm just going to continue doing what I will usually do after my brows, and probably my brows I'll do it more towards the end. So once I let that primer sit for a little bit, I do always go in with my Professionals. It helps really well my pores to not show as much. Pretty much like this much I always use, and then warm it up with my fingers, and then just go over on my nose. As you can tell, I am going to be looking down for most of the part of this video, because I do have my mirror down here, and that helps me guide on what am I putting on my face. Okay, so that's the first step that you always want to start with. So after moving on from step number one, you want to start with your foundation. Now for your foundation, I do want to mention, as being a beginner and as starting doing makeup for the first time, you want to focus on really finding the right shade for you. So most of the times, this is some knowledge that I have learned throughout the years. You always want to match your foundation to your neck, not to your face. I always recommend to every single person to go based on your neck. But if you have a different way, it's totally up to you. This has been working for me for so many years already, and I feel it's the best way to match it. So you always want to look at your skin and see what type of skin do you have. Do you see more yellows? Do you see more pinks? Do you see more olives? Olives are in between yellow and pink. So those are the tones. When you go to actually look for your foundation, you want to see those undertones in the foundation. Personally, I always like to pick tones that are a little bit more yellow. I am a little bit more on the pale side, but I feel like my skin has a little bit more yellow undertones. So I always tend to match with those. And I also always like to go with like probably one shade a little darker than my skin, because I always complement it with my concealer. As you guys know, my favorite foundation as of right now, it's Estee Lauder. But for this video, I am going to be using our L'Oreal Infallible 24-hour wear. Just like I said in my previous video, it can be definitely a dupe for Estee Lauder, and it's a really long wear. So if you're beginning to do your own makeup and you want to know of drugstore foundations that might work really well, definitely this is one of them. Super long wearing. It definitely does what it says in here. So I'm going to go ahead and pump it on my hand. Another thing I want to say, that sometimes in order to get a really flawless finish, you want to build up your foundation. A foundation is not going to automatically give you a full face. You want to build it up from a little. I always say start by a little bit and then build it up to more. Because if you start with a lot right away, it's going to be really hard for you to blend it out, and you're not going to get that really flawless finish. I've been loving the Morphe Contour Sponge. Always dense. It has really worked for me throughout these past years. Before, I used to do a brush. Definitely when it comes to you using a brush, I always recommend doing a brush that has a flat surface like this. These brushes are really going to give you a really even skin tone and a really flawless finish. If you don't want to do the sponge or a brush and you use your hands, go ahead and do so, because sometimes your hands are your best friend and they will probably leave you more of a flawless finish than these two other items. But I've been loving this sponge, and that's what I'm going to go ahead and apply it with. I always go with like 4 to 5 pumps on the back of my hand, and then start on the outer of my face. One thing that I also discovered throughout the years is that if I start on the outer of my face, it actually helps to let my primer sit for longer on the area of my nose. So when I actually go with the foundation, it creates more of that flawless finish. So this is why I always start with the outer side of my face. And not to mention as well that you don't really need a lot of foundation in this area, because you always go with the concealer. So you don't want to really cake it in with so many products at once. So definitely the outer of your face can be your beginning point. Your forehead. All around, just creating a nice even layer. You always want to bring it down your neck, because that blends everything in with your skin. So that's a definitely must thing to do. Okay, so I definitely think that's a nice even layer. As you can tell, the inner part of my face still doesn't have any product, so I'm going to go with more foundation to pump like 2 more pumps on the back of my hand, and not just a little bit more product in there. Just like I said, as my regular procedure to do my face, by this time I already have my brows, so I tend to always go with my extra product in my eyes. But today I'm not going to do that until I do my brows, so I could just put concealer on there. Okay, so our face is looking pretty even, and I feel like it's looking more flawless. As you guys can tell, I haven't done my nose, because for my nose, my pores give me a lot of problems every time I go with my foundation. What I do recommend is that if you have pores like me, when you go in with your foundation, you don't want to rub, you want to tap, because tapping will help you create that more nice even layer without damaging that in like the bottom part, which is your primer. So I always grab the product and really tap it on the nose, creating a little bit of more thicker even layer Grab more. On this area, I feel like my pores are a little bit more larger, so I tend to just kind of like do this little circular motion and then tapping as well. I'm going to get the bottom of my eyes just a little bit because just like I said, we're going to go over with concealer. We don't want to really cake it in. Okay, our face is looking pretty done with our foundation. Now we're going to move to step number 4, which is concealer. I usually always do 2 concealers, but I want to make it simple for you guys, especially if you're starting to do makeup. All you need is 1 concealer. Always recommend to do 1 shade lighter than your foundation so you can help brightening your skin. So I am going to use my Shape Tape concealer. You guys know this is one of my favorites, on the shade Fair, and just conceal the really inner areas of my face, which is here, the chin, the middle of the nose, and a little bit on the forehead. With the same sponge, we want to go ahead and blend. And on my nose. Okay, now we're going to go in with the eyes. Really focusing just under the eyes. Bring it a little bit down. What is that? Now for step number 5, oh my god, I have heard so many yeses, so many no's when it comes to this step, but for me, I definitely will say yes to it. Why? Because it will definitely make a difference on your makeup. So this step is baking. So baking is pretty much when you put it on the oven. Just kidding. So baking is pretty much when you set your face with powder. For the baking part, you always want to do a loose powder. If you do a pressed powder, I have seen before that pressed powders don't cover as much. So throughout the day, you might start seeing creasing. And if you're really oily, you might start seeing a lot of oil pour through. So first powder that I always go with is my Pure Cosmetics powder. I've been loving, I had said it on my full face video, this powder sets your face really, really well. So that's the first powder I always go with to set my under eyes, the area of my chin, and the area of my forehead. I was going to say my nose, but my nose I leave it toward the end. So let's go ahead and start baking with this powder. And with our same sponge, I just kind of turn it around. I grab the product and start at the bottom of my eyes, pressing lightly in and bringing it down from my nose. We're going to do the same thing on the other eye. I really think that a sponge makes better of a difference than if you go with a brush. But if you feel the baking for you works better with a brush, go ahead and do so. These are just tips that actually work for me and that I really want to share with you guys. Okay, so as you can tell, see, just with this little bit of time, we kind of see a little bit of creasing in here. I go in with the same sponge, turn it around, just kind of buff it out a little bit so we can take those harsh lines. And that's where my powder comes in and sets all of those lines in. Really set it in. I go all the way to the area of my hairline because I feel like throughout the day, if I'm like touching my hair or anything, it doesn't come off because I have it really set in place. As for this powder, this is all I use to do for the baking part. Once I let that sit bake under my eyes, I go in with my air sponge for my nose. It works amazing because it's full coverage and my nose always tends to get really, really oily throughout the day. It definitely locks those oils, so definitely recommend this just for the areas where you get more oily. I'm going to grab a little bit of that powder and then tap it on my nose. Perfect. Okay, so once we have those areas really locked in, I go in with my same Pure Cosmetics powder in a really fluffy brush and just grab a little bit and then start tapping it around my face. And this would definitely help for the creams to not pour back out. And also don't rub when you're putting any type of like bronzer or your blush. Is really gonna lock it in. Right, with the same brush, I'm gonna take all the powders out. And oh my god, guys, do you see the difference? Do you see how like nice and even that looks just with the powder? So obviously after this we have other steps to do, but my face just looks really weird with no brows on, because obviously they start disappearing once I start adding all these products in my face. So off camera, I'm gonna go ahead and do my brows. I will come back with brows on, and then we'll follow through the rest of the steps. Okay guys, so I am back. I went ahead and added out some lashes as well, but we're gonna go ahead and finish with the rest of our face. And because we're focusing on just face, obviously I didn't want to show you guys what I did with my eyes or my brows. But comment down below if you guys are interested in seeing a brow tutorial, because I can definitely come out with a video like that. And I do have some other ideas when it comes to brows. Okay, so we already finished with step number 5, so we're going to move on to step number 6. I do want to say that we'll probably come back to step number 5 again, because that's another thing I do towards the end of my face. So, as you guys can tell, I did not do any cream contour or anything like that, because I wanted to keep it simple for you guys. So, I am going to do my Morphe, always for bronzing, contouring, whatever the case, however you want to call it. I always recommend doing a angle brush. This brush is from Morphe, it's the 405. It has worked really well for me. I feel like it really helps carving my cheeks. Now, for bronzing and contouring, you always want to focus on the middle of your cheek. So look at your face and maybe see, because I know we all have different type of face shape. So look at it and see kind of where do you see this line of the hair? That's where you want to start on bronzing or contouring. Kind of angle it down, and then look at the other side as well and angle it down. So I'm going to grab a little bit of my bronzer and start working it out. I never go to end, because then it's gonna look a little too messy. You want to start from the outer side of the face in, because that helps a lot with how to shape your face. Okay, so kind of like this, and always bring it up your temples, just so you can add a little bit of more color and bronzing to your face. That would definitely make a difference. Can you tell? Look at that. Like this face, I mean, it's there. Like there's one shade only, but you can definitely see the, like, it's more contrasting. So let's do the other side. Okay, that's pretty much what I will do just on the areas of my cheeks and my temples. I always put some at the bottom, because that creates a shadow. And obviously the double chin, it will show, but it will not show as much. Bring it a little bit down to your neck. And I always add a little bit on my chin and like at the round. Okay, that's pretty much what I do on my face. Then I go in with my nose. I did show that I use this brush from e.l.f. and I grab just on the outer of the brush and go in on the middle of my nose, kind of creating a line. And it's going to look a little harsh when we go in with the powder, especially with the bronzer, because we really want to create that intense like line so it can really narrow our nose in. Kind of like that. Now we have a really intense nose, but it's okay. We're going to go ahead and fix that. We're obviously not going to leave it this intense, but I really wanted to show you guys what it might look if you guys start doing your nose contour. It might look a little too messy at the beginning, but there's always ways to work around it and make it look more softer. But if you really want to contour your nose and make it look more slimmer, this is what you want to do. Really show those narrow lines. Now we're going to go with highlight and blush. I'm going to do my same blushes from the same palette that I have here. and just grab both of them and add a little bit of blush right in here. Always bring it up a little bit higher from the cheekbones. The same thing on the other side. Okay, that's that. With my other brush, I'm going to go over my nose and just kind of try to buff out the harsh lines of the bronzing. And now we're going to go back to step number 5. So as my previous video, the Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder has been my go-to by itself, or I do it like just like I'm going to do it right now. I use it for baking as well after I do the whole contour and the blush. With this sponge from Eco Tools and the flat surface, I'm going to grab a little bit and really cut my nose down so my nose can look more narrow, and put it a little bit under my eyes so they can brighten a little bit more. Just like that. Guys, I also know that maybe this might be a lot of steps for you guys, especially if you're starting to do makeup. But definitely if you want your makeup to last a really long period of time throughout the day, these steps are really helpful. Like I'm telling you, if you do these steps just like how I'm doing them, you will see a difference on your makeup. And with the flat surface on top, I grab a little bit and then I go in the middle of my nose. So once we do all of this with a really fluffy brush, not so intense, we just want to buff everything out. Take all the powder. And I'm using a little bit of with the same brush I did my blush, just going over. Before we do, I know it was blush and highlight, but before we do highlights, I always like to set my entire face with a setting spray. Guys, this will make a difference because obviously we're doing a lot of powders. We're probably, if you're dry skin, you're like, oh my god, I will never do this. This will be too dry for me. But setting sprays make a difference. It just melts into your skin, everything that you had put on, and you will see a huge difference. As you know, this setting spray here is my go-to setting spray. I will not use it today, but if you're dry skin and you did this whole steps I have gone through and you feel like your skin is too dry, definitely go in with this setting spray and you will definitely see a difference. Today I am going to go over with my Morphe setting spray. It creates a really light mist in your face, and it's super affordable as well. So I'm just going to spray all my face. Alright, now we just air it out. This is what helps your makeup. It melts your makeup into your skin. It takes the harsh powdery finish, and you will definitely see a difference with a setting spray. Now, once all this is set, then I go in with my highlighter. Obviously, you guys already know what highlighter I'm going to use right here. But the highlighter is just like an extra bonus thing. If you don't like to highlight, feel more than free to not use any highlighter. But I do feel that highlight always makes your skin look more like snatched and really more like out there. If you're more into the dry side, definitely you want to do more highlight, because highlights really bring out the dewy into your skin. So I'm going to grab a little bit and add it on top of my cheekbone. Oh my god. You guys see this? This is why I love this highlight. Do the other side. And you guys are probably wondering, why did she spray her face first and then did her highlight? This is actually a new thing I just discovered. I realized that when you do setting spray first and then do your highlight on top, your highlight pops out more. So that's definitely what you want to go for. If you want your highlight to really stand out, you want to use it after your setting spray. I don't know if I mentioned before in my other videos, but I never like to do my nose. Again, I do get really oily there, and when I put highlighter there, I feel like my nose gets more oily and it looks super gross. So don't really like to do that, and I don't really want my pores to show out more, and with highlight, texture and everything shows, so that's why I don't do my nose. As you know, I already did setting spray, which that was our last step, which is step number 8. But once we have all of our highlights, even though we already did setting spray, if you want your makeup to last longer, you're going to be maybe going out on a party, or you're going to have an event, or you're going to be doing something else, I don't know, but you really don't want to touch up throughout the day, then I definitely recommend going with your all-nighter Urban Decay setting spray or your MAC Fix Plus. These two, either or, will make your makeup last so long, and your makeup will look so much different. Either one of these setting sprays I love using. So I'm just going to go with my MAC Fix Plus. And there you have it. Now I went ahead and bring down my hair and just added my bottom lashes and the lipstick. And look at that, guys. My skin looks so good. Like, it's just really good. And if you really follow these steps just for one day and you see a difference, thank me later. I'm just kidding, but definitely you will notice how well and how nice your makeup lasts throughout the whole day. So all I want to say is thank you guys so much for staying till the end of this video. I'm hoping for you beginners, or maybe some of you guys that want to have more tips on how to apply your foundation, on how to make your foundation last throughout the whole day, this helped. And please don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.